When Liam slipped in the cafeteria, he expected laughter. Not a hand. Not from Noah, the star athlete. What started as a silent gesture spiraled into something deeper. But in a town where image is everything, being seen comes at a price, especially when your truth doesn't fit their script. I didn't expect anyone to help. That's the first thing. When you spend enough time being overlooked, you stop waiting for hands to reach out. It happened in the cafeteria, halfway between my table and the trash. Someone's backpack strap caught my foot. My tray flipped. Juice splashed across the floor. My books scattered like a deck of cards. And I hit the ground hard enough for the entire room to go silent. Then the laughter started. Quick, sharp, layered with that cruelty only teenagers can make sound casual. I didn't look up. I stayed down, face to the floor, hoping if I didn't move, they'd forget I was there. But then I heard a voice. "You okay?" I looked up, expecting mockery. But it wasn't that. It was him, Noah Collins. Varsity soccer. The guy people followed without question. He wasn't loud, didn't need to be. He had that rare kind of presence that made even silence seem loud. He wasn't laughing. He just stood there, hand outstretched. I didn't move at first. My brain searched for the trick, the punchline. But there wasn't one. Just a steady hand, waiting. So I took it. He pulled me up in one smooth motion. No spectacle, no commentary. Then he crouched down, gathering my books. His fingers brushed mine once. We both froze, just for a second. He handed me the last one and said, "Watch your step," before walking off like it meant nothing. But it didn't feel like nothing. The rest of the day blurred. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Not because it was dramatic, but because it felt like I mattered for a moment. Like I wasn't invisible. The next morning I saw him again by the lockers. One earbud in, phone in hand. He looked up as I passed. "Liam," he said. Just my name. No question, no tone. Like I existed. I nodded, barely breathing. Walked faster than necessary. Didn't look back. But something had shifted. I found myself tracking him in every room. Not staring, just noticing. Where he stood, who he laughed with, the way his gaze sometimes drifted past the noise, like he was looking for an exit. By Friday, I thought maybe I was imagining it all. But after gym, he walked up to me as I was grabbing my stuff. "You got a minute?" I nodded too fast. He didn't comment. We walked down the side hallway, past the vending machines and faded bulletin boards. He stopped near the old trophy case, mostly empty now, like the school forgot how to win. "You ever feel like no one actually knows you?" he asked. I answered without thinking. "Every day." He didn't smile, just nodded. "Yeah, same." That was it. We didn't say anything else. But the silence wasn't empty. It felt like space, like something understood. He looked at me once more before leaving and said, "See you Monday." Like it was normal, but it wasn't. Nothing had changed, not on the outside, but inside something had cracked open. On Monday, I walked into school expecting distance, but he found me before I even reached my locker. "Hey, Liam." No performance, no hesitation. That whole day I kept waiting for it to fade, for the illusion to drop, but it didn't. He didn't avoid me. He didn't pretend. And that afternoon, tucked inside the back of my lit textbook, I found a note. No name, just messy handwriting. Bleachers. After school. I almost didn't go, but curiosity is louder than fear sometimes. He was already there when I arrived, hoodie up, staring at the sky like it owed him something. I sat beside him, said nothing. "You don't talk much," and he said. "I don't get talked to much." He nodded. "That's fair." There was a pause, not awkward, just real. "You ever feel like you've been quiet for so long that you forgot how to be anything else?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "All the time." He looked at me, then away. "I don't talk like this with anyone," he said. "Not the guys. Not even at home." I didn't ask why. He answered anyway. "Maybe it's because you don't ask anything of me." I wanted to ask what that meant, but I understood it too well. When we finally stood up to leave, he said, "Thanks for showing up." I didn't sleep much that night, not because I was scared, because for the first time in a long time, someone saw me and didn't look away. Noah didn't speak to me in front of others, not out of shame, at least it didn't feel that way. It was more like caution, like we both knew that whatever this was, it couldn't survive too much light yet. But he kept finding me. Quiet places, corners after class, small hallways between bells. It wasn't every day, that would have drawn attention. But when it happened, it felt deliberate. "Still reading that book?" he asked once before first period. "Almost done," I said. "Any good?" "Slow but honest." "I like honest things." That was it, a 20-second exchange that sat with me for hours. Next time he asked what kind of music I liked. "Instrumentals mostly," I said. "No lyrics." He nodded. "Lyrics can get too loud." I knew what he meant. He once told me he fell asleep to rain sounds. Said it was the only time he didn't feel like his thoughts were trying to outrun him. I didn't tell anyone about him, not because I was scared, because I didn't want to share it, not yet. But silence has limits. The shift started in gym, routine drills, partner work. Coach called out names and Noah ended up with me. Again. No one said anything, but they noticed. We passed the basketball between us, quick and clean. His focus never slipped, but his shoulders were tense. His gaze lingered longer than it should have. Then I stepped too fast, lost footing. Not a fall, but close. He caught my arm before I could tip. His hand stayed there. Mine stayed still. A sharp whistle cut through the air. Someone from the far end of the gym, not a coach, a student. Laughter followed, not loud, but pointed. Noah let go like he'd touched fire, stepped back, tossed the ball without looking. We didn't speak again that class. By the time I left the locker room, he was gone. He didn't wait, not like before. That day, I didn't see him in the hall, not in the spots he usually drifted near, not at lunch, not near my locker. It was like someone flipped a switch and shut the light off. I told myself not to care, that this was nothing, that whatever we had wasn't real enough to miss. But I did. By Thursday, I caught a glimpse of him across the courtyard. Just a glimpse. He turned away before our eyes could meet. That evening, I walked to the bleachers, the ones behind the gym, the ones no one uses anymore. He was there, top row, hoodie up, head down. I climbed slowly, sat next to him without asking. The silence between us was heavier than usual. Then he said, "I don't know who I'm supposed to be anymore." Not broken, just tired. I've been pretending for so long, I forgot what's real. He didn't look at me, just stared at the empty field. I feel like I'm performing all the time, even when no one's watching. I didn't answer, just listened. "The gym thing shouldn't matter," he said. "Catching someone shouldn't be a statement. But everything I do feels like a risk." I nodded even though he wasn't looking. He kept talking. "I used to think being strong meant having answers. Now it just feels like staying quiet until no one asks." He paused and then softer. "Sometimes silence is the only thing I trust. But even that's starting to feel dangerous." I asked, "Why?" "Because now people fill it with assumptions." That landed harder than he meant it to. We sat there until the wind got sharp. Neither of us moved. Eventually he said, "I remember the night we named stars." "I remember everything," I said. He finally looked at me, not guarded, not scared, just real. "That's what I want," he said. "Something that doesn't need explaining. Something I don't have to hide from." I didn't move closer. I didn't touch him. I just stayed. Because sometimes presence is louder than permission. When we finally stood, we didn't make plans. But we didn't need to. Whatever we were building wasn't loud, but it was holding. For now, things didn't fall apart all at once. That would have been easier, cleaner. Instead, it crept in, like cold slipping through a crack in the window. You don't notice it at first. Then suddenly, you're shivering. It started at lunch. Noah sat with his usual group. I wasn't far, close enough to hear snippets, enough to catch the tone. Troy, his oldest friend, was louder than usual. His laugh carried. his elbows spread wide like he needed space to dominate the table. "You've been quiet, man," Troy said. "Not like you." Noah shrugged. "Just tired." Troy leaned in. "You tired or soft?" It was said with a grin, but the grin didn't soften the words. "Where's the old Noah?" Troy asked. "The one who didn't ghost his own friends for whoever." The table laughed, just enough for it to sting. Noah didn't laugh, didn't look up, just picked at his food. I watched from my corner table, not reacting, but inside I felt something shift. Not jealousy, not fear, just the start of understanding. Noah was being asked to choose. Later that day, I found a note in my locker again. Just a sentence. Park, usual spot. After. When I got there, he was already on the bench. Same posture. Shoulders hunched forward like he was trying to hold himself together. "I'm tired," he said. Not in the normal way. I waited. "I'm tired of adjusting, of measuring my words, my posture, my reactions. I'm tired of playing a version of me just to keep peace." He paused. "Troy thinks I'm slipping." "He said that?" I asked. But I've known him long enough to read between lines. He's asking questions, watching who I talk to, noticing what I don't say. I didn't respond. There was nothing to fix. Noah kept going. "We've known each other since middle school. We used to hang out every weekend. But lately it feels like I'm dragging an old version of myself behind me." Then he looked at me. "You ever feel that? Like your history's a trap?" "All the time." He exhaled slowly. He asked why I don't chase girls. Joked about it. But it didn't feel like a joke. I looked at him. "What did you say?" "Nothing. I just laughed. The kind of laugh that buys you time." I nodded. I knew that laugh too well. "He's not cruel," Noah said, "but he's traditional. He doesn't question himself, so he questions me." He leaned back. "I hate lying, even in pieces, but I hate what honesty might break more." "You think it'll break him?" "I think it'll break what he thinks of me." We sat in silence after that. Then he asked, "Do you ever think about what happens if people find out?" I didn't answer right away. He added, "Not just find out. Assume. Label. Twist." "Yes," I said. "But mostly I'm afraid they'll act like it explains everything. Like a name for one part of you suddenly erases all the rest." That hit him, I could tell. "You're the first person I've talked to like this," he said, "and I don't even know what this is." "You don't have to." He looked relieved at that. Then he said something I didn't expect. "Troy saw us after gym. That day I caught your arm. He didn't say anything, but he saw. And since then, it's been colder." He doesn't say it, but he knows something's different. And I think that scares him. "Does it scare you?" Noah didn't answer, which was answer enough. When we left the park that evening, he didn't walk ahead. He stayed next to me, even when 2 other kids from school passed by. He didn't flinch. He didn't look at them. But I saw his shoulders tense, just slightly. At school the next day, something changed. The hallway that used to feel neutral started echoing, not with words, with pauses. People hesitated when I passed. Their eyes lingered. They didn't laugh. But they didn't smile either. And Noah? He didn't disappear. But he stopped meeting my gaze. His nods were shorter, his voice clipped. Not cruel, just edited. Whatever we were building hadn't broken, but the cracks had started to show. Noah messaged me late. No greeting, no emojis, just, "Can we talk? I need someone who doesn't expect anything." I told him where I'd be, a small park near the school, where the streetlights never fully worked and no one hung around too long. Just one bench beneath a tree with no leaves left to hide under. He showed up 20 minutes later. No rush in his walk, no hesitation either. He didn't sit right away, just stood, hands in his pockets, like he wasn't sure if the ground would hold him. Then finally he dropped onto the bench beside me and exhaled. "I think I'm losing him," he said. He didn't say who. He didn't have to. I haven't said anything, but Troy's looking at me like he already knows, like he's disappointed without words. I waited. He called me quiet again, said I've been distracted, that I'm slipping. I told him I was tired. He said, "Of what?" And I couldn't answer. His voice was steady, but there was weight in it, the kind that doesn't break but presses down. I've known him forever. We've been through everything. But now, it's like I'm one question away from losing everything we had. You think he'd walk away? I don't know, but I think he liked who I was when I kept things simple. And I'm not simple anymore. Silence, not comfort. Just pressure building between us. He kept going. I've been playing a version of me for so long, it feels real. But it's not. And every time I say nothing, every time I laugh at the wrong moment or shrug something off, I feel like I'm agreeing to be someone I'm not. His hands curled into fists against his thighs. I don't want to lose people, but I hate more the person I become trying to keep them. I didn't answer quickly. I let it sit. Then I said, "You're not the only one doing that." He looked at me. I know what it's like to disappear by choice, to shrink so no one notices what doesn't fit. I've done it for years and it works, until it doesn't. Noah nodded slowly, like something inside him had already known but needed to hear it out loud. "I didn't expect this," he said. "Whatever this is, I didn't plan it. You were just there. And I didn't feel like I had to wear anything extra when I was around you." "You don't." He laughed once, but it wasn't joy. "I wish it was that simple." "It is. Here, with me." He didn't reply, just looked away. Then he said, "Do you ever imagine what comes next? Like, if we keep walking this way?" "I do. And I don't know where it goes, but I know it's better than pretending I'm not walking at all." He didn't speak again for a while. Then he whispered, "I'm scared." "Of what?" "That this is real, and that real comes with consequences." It did. We both knew that. But pretending had consequences too. That night, as we stood to leave, I thought he'd keep the distance like before, but he didn't. He stood close, almost shoulder to shoulder. He didn't reach for me. He didn't have to. Before he walked away, he said, "I don't want to go back to who I was, but I don't know who I'm allowed to be." I answered, "Then be who you are when you're not trying to be anything." He didn't nod, didn't thank me. He just walked, and I knew something inside him had shifted for good. I didn't expect him to show up the next morning, not because I didn't believe him, but because I knew what it would cost. The courtyard buzzed with usual noise, half-awake voices, shuffling feet, early bells. I moved through it the way I always did, eyes ahead, shoulders tucked. But this time, I wasn't alone. Noah was already walking toward me. No pause, no glancing over his shoulder. His steps were steady, each one louder than anything anyone could say. When he reached me, he didn't speak. He just stood next to me, not behind, not somewhere nearby. Right there. People noticed. Conversations slowed. Some stopped completely. I heard a laugh, short and confused. Someone whispered something too low to catch, but he didn't flinch. He looked straight ahead like the world didn't owe him an explanation, then turned slightly and smiled. Not a wide smile, not the kind that asked for attention, just enough to say, "I'm here." I smiled back. That moment lasted forever in my head, not because it was big, but because it was honest. We weren't hiding. We weren't explaining. We were just seen. The rest of the day moved in strange rhythms. The hallways felt tighter. The glances lasted longer. But no one said anything to our faces. Noah didn't shrink. He leaned against lockers like usual, passed me notes in the margin of worksheets, asked if I still liked quiet music, told me he'd been listening to piano again. At lunch, he didn't sit with Troy. He crossed the cafeteria like it wasn't a decision, sat across from me and opened his drink. Silence hit the room for just a second. Then it resumed, louder than before. He didn't comment on the stares, just started talking about the science project we'd been assigned. I answered like it was any other day. After school, he was waiting at the gate, backpack slung low, expression unreadable. A few people looked confused. One nudged their friend and pointed. He didn't react, didn't justify. We just started walking. No rush, no plan. Today felt strange, he said eventually. Yeah, but not bad. No, he paused. I thought it'd feel heavier. Does it? He shook his head. It feels clear. We reached the edge of the park where we usually split off. He didn't keep walking, just stopped and looked at me like he was measuring the moment. Some people are going to turn away, he said. They already are. He nodded. But I'm done turning away from myself. We stood there quiet. He said, I'm not trying to prove anything. You don't have to. He looked relieved. I still don't know what to call this. You don't have to name it. You're allowed to just feel it. He smiled again. Smaller this time. Then he said something I'll never forget. You're the only person who saw me and didn't ask me to perform. I didn't answer, just stood there and let it be true. Then he added, even if this gets harder, I'm not going back. Good, I said, because I'd rather lose everyone else than lose who you are when you're honest. He looked at me like he was trying to memorize that sentence, then finally said, I'm still scared. I know, but I'm not hiding. I know. He stepped back, not away, just to leave. Before he turned, he said, thanks for being real before I knew how to be. And then he left. I stood there long after he disappeared from view, not because I was waiting, but because I didn't need to run anymore. The world hadn't changed, but I had, and so had he.